The following is a paid advertisement. The views expressed are the sole responsibility of the advertiser.
Put the power back in your hands. This is Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark.
Welcome to Behind the Law. Happy weekend to you. We have a great show lined up. You will not want to miss a second of it. Allow me, as always, to introduce you to my beautiful co-host, Michaela Nichols. Michaela, how are you today?
I'm great.
You are the voice of the people at home. You are not a lawyer. I am a lawyer. You're going to ask the questions that people at home might have that I already know the answer to.
Or do you? Are you going to learn with me?
Not every time.
Okay, well, I guess we'll find out.
I'm going to pretend like I know, even if I don't know.
That would be helpful for you.
Don't forget, we are here live. If you have any questions whatsoever, the phone number will be on the screen during the entire show. 321-282-1055. All-time high in credit card debt. Should you do debt consolidation or not? Hint, no. The answer is no. Also, accident reconstruction and investigation, especially in criminal matters. Sometimes you can get charged with something that can be easily disproved. Can't wait to talk to you about how to reconstruct that accident. Very quick break. Dan Brigman has a special offer with you as hurricane season approaches, as Behind the Law continues. As promised, yes, it is hurricane season, and a lot of us look at our house, make sure we're hurricane prepared, make sure we have a generator, all sorts of things that we do to prepare ourselves, go to the grocery store, load up on all sorts of water bottles or whatever. But there's something that you don't do when it comes to your house that I think you need to be doing, and that is the windows. You think about when you've had a hurricane roll through. We had 2 last year. You're sitting there with your family, and when that wind is blowing, if you have bad windows, literally, they could blow out. And in fact, it can make your roof blow over too. I mean, it's really scary stuff that you don't think about. I don't know why we're trained to buy paper towels and water bottles, but we don't talk about the windows of our home. Dan Brigman is here. Renewal by Andersen. Dan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Justin, great to be here.
Think about sitting there playing Monopoly with your family at this hurricane party. And when the winds get really strong, you can hear those windows just pounding. Why don't we think about windows when we think about hurricane prep?
You know, most of us, when we think about windows, we're worried about energy savings. We're worried about, hey, is there any water coming in? And do they open and close when we need to? We don't think about the fact that something could actually hit it at 100 miles an hour and come in and kill us.
Yeah, it's pretty scary stuff if you think about it as well. Here's what I want you to do, though. Derek Moser's going to put a QR code on the screen right now because Dan from Renewal by Andersen has the best deal he's ever given you. So QR code is up right now, Dan. Just for this audience, what are you going to do?
It's exciting. Yeah, we're going to actually go all out. We're going to go 20% off of anything and everything that we offer at Renewal by Andersen.
20%?
I mean, anything and everything.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Now, you also have a product that I'm just learning about that is the best in the business when it comes to hurricane protection.
Yes, we do. We have our new Impact product that it can be rated. Some of our windows are rated well over 200 miles an hour, and that's we have a negative design pressure and a positive design pressure, which simply means wind can push against your window or it can actually suck your window. And so you don't want your windows coming out of your house, because if that happens, chances are your roof is coming off. And we've exceeded Dade County's requirement by 2-fold.
Yeah, I've been at a lot of restaurants and things, and people have said, I saw that Brigman guy on your show, Justin, and I need new windows for my house. I know I do. But I don't have 40 grand, I don't have 20 grand, I don't have 30 grand to stroke a check, or even if they do, they don't necessarily want to spend all of that cash up front. Renewal by Andersen has a great program for paying it over time.
Yeah, we actually do. We don't up the price of our windows to give you great financing. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, we have rates as low as 2.9. We have no interest, and we call it our Easy Pay program. We come in, we can do your home in phases, or we can do your whole home. And look, it's less than a car payment most of the time, and you've got security for the rest of your life. It's a one-time deal.
Yeah, I love it. Dan, always good to see you, buddy. I don't know why people aren't thinking about windows. I hope that you are now as hurricane season approaches, as you sit there with your family, you're protecting them. We have families. We know what it feels like to want to protect them, especially during those storms. It's a little bit scary, but it feels like our job to protect especially our kids and the rest of our family. Make sure your windows are protected. Call us right now, 321-282 1055 or hit the QR code on the screen for 20% off all windows at Renewal by Andersen. Welcome back to the show, and I wanted to address this with you briefly because so many of you have been calling me and you've come into my office to ask this question, and it is true. As a country, we have hit the all-time credit card debt maximum. We've never had this much credit card debt as a country, and it is a little bit scary. It's a little bit disconcerting, and many of you have come to my office and you said, Justin, it's the same question every time. Justin, should I do this debt consolidation? And my answer almost every time to you is no. I don't like it. Now, every situation's a little bit different, of course, but most of you that have come into my office asking about debt consolidation, you've said, well, you haven't been paying on your credit card debt in a while, your credit's already taken a hit, and you want to consolidate all your debt. Let me tell you why I don't like this for you. Number one, while you're going through this consolidation, what's so funny? You're laughing at me.
I'm not, go ahead.
While you're going, wait, don't listen to her. While you're going through this debt consolidation, your credit's going to be wrecked the entire time. So how it goes is these companies, you pay them a certain amount every month. Think in terms of $400 to about $800, depending on how much credit card debt you have. They essentially put it into an account, and then they settle your credit cards as time goes by. Generally speaking, this process takes minimum a year, really more like 2, 3, sometimes 4 years, and you're paying every single month to this company to settle these debts as they can, as this account grows. What I don't like about it is, number one, you're probably struggling anyway, and that's a significant amount of money for you to pay every month. But number two is your credit is wrecked the entire time. Now, I want you to pay your credit card debts. I do. My advice always is to try to pay your credit card debts. But if you've already fallen behind, I think bankruptcy is always the better way to go as opposed to this debt consolidation. And here's the main reason. Bankruptcy, when you just file it, the day you file, you wipe out all your debt. You're not going to pay every month for the next 3 years or however long it's going to take. But also the day you file, your credit starts to get better right away. When someone comes into my office and they file bankruptcy, we print this really exhaustive credit report. It shows me where your score is today and what it's going to be in 12 months. And inevitably, virtually every single time, that credit score, if you haven't paid your debts already, is pretty low, probably going to be somewhere in the 500s. But after a year, after filing bankruptcy, and it happens even faster than that normally, your credit score is going to go up significantly, and it's going to go up faster significantly. And this is important, I think, because a lot of us are talking about we want to buy a car or we want to get a mortgage on a house. And how is the quickest way to get to that point where you can do it? And to me, if you have a lot of debt and you're already not paying that debt, the quickest way to get you back to home ownership, get you back to some normalcy in your life is to file the bankruptcy. Keep in mind, though, every family situation is a little bit different. Always. It's going to be different, and you might have other questions about this. The phone number is right here, 321-282-1055. We'd be happy to sit down and talk to you about it anytime. Now, you don't like bankruptcy. I know. It's always been a very bad word to you, and I understand that. We're not out here saying everyone should file bankruptcy, but Michaela, there are families out there where mom and dad are working their tails off every single day of every single week, every single month, all year long, and they have all this debt that's coming after them. And there are families out there who you're working hard. They love their kids, and they literally, at the end of the month, because they have to spend so much money paying the credit card debt, they have to make a decision. Do I pay the Amex bill, or do I put food on the table for my family? You haven't been in that position. You've never had to make that decision. There are people watching right now that are making that decision every day, and that's why I'm super comfortable sitting here saying that there's a constitutional right that you have to file bankruptcy if you really feel that much of a crunch in your family's financial situation. All right?
All right.
I don't want to argue with you about this anymore.
There was zero room for me to participate in any of that, but yeah, what he said.
321-282-1055. I have a real treat for you coming up next. Here's what we're going to do. And there's a story behind this as well. There was a criminal case where someone was charged with a very serious crime. Turns out they didn't commit. But how did they prove they didn't commit the crime? They hired the right accident reconstructionist and the right private investigator to prove that they didn't do it. It's just ahead as Behind the Law continues. Do I ever have a very special gift for you today? Compliments our good friends over at Universal Roof and Contracting. 15% off your roofing job. The roof is the most important part of your house. No doubt about it. Welcome my good friends as always, Justin and Corey. Hi, how are you today?
Good, man, good. Thank you.
The roof is the most important part of the house, but sometimes deciding who your roofing company is going to be is the most important decision as well. Culture is everything.
Sure.
When determining who's going to do your roofing job, Universal, the culture over there blows me away. Trustworthy. Tell me about the culture at Universal.
Yeah, I mean, 30 years in the making, right? Family-owned, veteran-owned, same name and ownership over the past 3 decades. We're so proud to be so rooted in Orlando, and we have offices in Jacksonville and Southwest Florida. But the honest approach, the integrity we carry, working transparently with insurance companies and homeowners alike. I mean, we approach roofing the way an honest company really should.
Trusted by some of the biggest sports teams in Florida as well.
That's right. That's right. We this past season we were the one of the partners with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which was awesome. They had a great season this year too. And then just coming next month, the XFL, the Orlando Guardians. We are the official roofer for the Orlando Guardians, so we're excited to go out to those games and see everybody there. So it'll be great.
A roof can be expensive. You created great programs to make this roof not cost prohibitive for me.
Yeah, I mean, last thing we're going to do is take food off people's plates to afford a roof. So we have a ton of flexible financing plans that just keeps things very liquid for homeowners, even if they don't want to use their own money, even if they have it at the time, you know. So we offer that as well for every roof replacement.
I have this QR code on the screen right now. Get your phone out or go to their website, but the QR code will go directly to Justin and Corey, and literally you get 15% off. But guys, you're going to come to my house and tell me what I really need, honestly.
Absolutely, yeah. Free inspection, first of all. It does cost nothing for us to come out. We're going to sit down with you, hear what you like about your roof, what you don't like about your roof, what problems you've had, and come up with a custom scope of work that makes sense for you.
Always a pleasure to see you both. There's only one company we trust when it comes to roofing. That is Universal Roof and Contracting. I heard about this great story, and I really wanted to share it with you. You hear all the time about someone's on death row and the conviction got overturned. This is not that story. This is something different, and something where a criminal defendant really was charged with something that he should not have been charged with, and it took a lot of investigative work and really reconstructing this accident that occurred to show that he was not guilty, or not nearly as guilty as he was initially charged, and actually ended up getting convicted of. And really, it's thanks to you guys. We don't have to mention names or throw lawyers under the bus or whatever here. Happy to be joined again by Anthony Fairbanks, Delta V Consulting. Anthony, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good.
Just the V and the 5 thing.
It's throwing you off
my
a little
note
bit.
says as in the letter, and I still had to think about it. It's ridiculous. Anthony, welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me back.
And for the first time, private investigator Eric Zelaya joins us. Eric, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
So let's talk about this story quickly. And a guy was charged with a very serious crime, was going to spend a lot of time in prison, and that's not the case anymore thanks to the co-work that you two did together.
Yeah. Yes, it was the first case that we worked on together in 2018. It involved a DUI manslaughter case where a driver was charged with DUI manslaughter for killing a bicyclist. And ultimately, he took a plea and was convicted and received a lengthy prison term, but appealed that conviction and was reheard, and the case was resolved with probation.
Yeah. How did you guys work together to get this overturned?
So we, I initially got appointed through what we call the Justice Administration Commission, which is a government organization in the state of Florida that provides funding for indigent defendants. In this case, the defendant was indigent and he had a court-appointed attorney. At the time, I was working with the attorney, and I was appointed to the case as the private investigator. Given the type of case it was, I was friends with Tony, and I brought Tony on board as my in-house expert, and that's kind of how we got involved from the get-go with this case.
Yeah, I mean, we love police officers, obviously. I mean, no question about that. It's a tough job, and they have to work very quickly when they're investigating these accidents. It's a quick thing. They want to get in and out. They want to do as good as they can, of course, but they have to work quickly when they're investigating an accident, and maybe there were some mistakes made here.
They were avoidable mistakes. Unfortunately, they attributed a higher speed to him. There is a process that we go through to calculate the speed based upon the length of the skid marks. In this case, they attributed more skid mark than was appropriate, and it artificially inflated his speed to somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 some odd miles per hour when he was actually going 60. He was speeding. He was speed limit was 45, but he wasn't going nearly as fast as what he's accused.
Got it. How do we work together? How do we parlay this private investigation with the accident reconstruction? How do those two things work together?
So it honestly meshes very well. Usually with my role as a private investigator, my role is to look at the evidence, it's to re-interview witnesses, it's to canvass for new witnesses, it's to look for things that the attorney might miss and to help the attorney prepare for trial, but also look for any reasonable doubt that exists. With the experts coming on board and assisting us with that investigation, it gives me the ability to have an expert who may know more about a subject than I do, be able to look at it, and in this case we had the reconstruction of the accident. Tony was able to look at it from his experience and create animations that I can't create on my own. And he's able to use my investigations and input that information into his recreations and reports. And then at the end of the day, we both have a big report to give the attorney versus just one or the other.
Okay, question. So do I call you or does like my attorney call you?
It depends on the type of case. So a lot of times for cases like Tony had mentioned, like post-conviction cases where somebody's already been convicted, we get calls from family members wanting us to look at their case. But for cases where you're just charged with a crime, usually it's from the attorney.
Do yourself a favor. If you've been charged with a crime, or even if you've had an accident and they're saying it's your fault, you know it wasn't, how do you prove them wrong? I'll tell you how you prove them wrong. These two gentlemen are going to work together for you. I will connect you with them. It's your lucky day. 321-282-1055. How does that feel when you see someone who's going to be locked up for, was it 18 years or something you said?
It feels really good to be able to help them that way. All police officers, we don't want to put somebody in jail that doesn't deserve to be, but as was discussed previously, sometimes mistakes are made and that person is convicted of a crime that they didn't commit. So it feels nice to be able to kind of work from the other side of the law and to be able to help somebody prove their innocence.
How thankful was he to you two?
He was very, very thankful. I mean, and the attorneys after the fact in the appeal as well utilized both our information. They were extremely thankful for. I mean, you're facing 18 years in prison, and you're given a plea deal because the evidence shows that the crime didn't pan out the way that everybody alleged that was done. So he was thankful.
Private investigators have an important role in society, and we've seen you in films, and it's something I don't think people understand a lot of what private investigators do. Now, I think a lot of people at home are thinking, oh, that's when you think your wife is cheating, you call Eric for an investigation. It's way, way more than that, Eric.
It is. Every investigator has their niche, and mine is criminal defense. I've done this for 14 years now. Criminal defense is my specialty. Post-conviction appeals is my specialty. I'm not the one that you're going to find sitting in a car watching your cheating spouse. I'm the one that you're going to call when you're charged with murder that you didn't commit, and you need to find that evidence or that witness or that little piece of information that for that smoking gun to combat the state's evidence.
Yeah, it's scary when you think about it because a lot of these criminal defendants, look, let's be honest, most of them are probably guilty, but there are plenty of people charged with a crime that are not guilty, and they're sitting there away from their family, locked up, their freedom taken away. And if they don't get the right, whether it's criminal defense attorney or even the criminal defense attorney who has a connection to someone like you who knows how to investigate it, I mean, there's evidence right there. There are facts that are out there that simply don't come out. It's a little scary if you think about it.
It is, and unfortunately, in America, 1% of all convictions are actual wrongful convictions.
Really?
And they've done studies on that. And so that's why it's very important as an attorney, as a client to ask for a private investigator, to have a private investigator on your case. Not only just for reviewing the evidence or discovery, but also for canvassing for new witnesses. You don't know what's going to be out there until you actually go out there and look for it. Having us there at trial, we assist with jury selection, running backgrounds of potential jurors. You want to make sure that you have a jury of your client's peers that's going to be non-biased to whatever charge they're facing. So that's why it's very, very important to have a good private investigator on your defense team.
When it comes to private investigation, what leeway do you have to go do your own investigation? Can you knock on doors? Like, what can you do?
I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we're civilians with a private investigator license. So, you know, I'm not a law enforcement officer. I don't have the authority of one. You know, we operate as quote unquote an agent of counsel. So we're an extension of the defense attorney. So the same privileges that you have with the attorney are extended to us as well. So, you know, we knock on doors. You know, we have the ability to serve subpoenas on behalf of the attorney, you know, for witnesses or for evidence. So a lot of the things that a cop can do, we can sort of do, just not at the level that they can do.
Yeah. What do you have to do to get that license?
So in the state of Florida, in order to get a private investigator license, it requires a two-year internship. And once that internship is done, then you apply for a test. You take a state test, which goes over legal theory and a bunch of other things as it applies to investigators, and then you get your own what we call a C license.
Right. So
That's fascinating. It really is.
That is, I agree. So criminal defense is your real bread and butter, I guess. What are some other reasons people hire a private investigator for?
There could be a lot of reasons. You know, a lot of times you'll hire an investigator for a probate case. You know, you'll hire an investigator for, like we talked about, cheating spouses. Asset searches. There's a lot of things that private investigators can do because we have access to information the general public doesn't have, such as background information, motor vehicle records. So, I mean, you can pretty much name it, and investigators probably done it.
Now, we have a case that I don't want to say too much about here, you know, yet. Hopefully we'll talk about it some other day, but we're working on it together with you two, and it's an auto accident case where, you know, some dear friend of ours lost a daughter, and it's, you know, an incredibly sad case. And when there is a death involved, there's someone there that can't testify because they are no longer with us, unfortunately. And that's when you bring in someone like Anthony Fairbanks to really reconstruct that accident, because right now it's just one story of someone who's still living, and we have a whole other story to tell of someone who unfortunately is not living. When you go back and reconstruct an accident, Tony, what do you do?
Well, I consider everything. Unfortunately, sometimes in crash investigators, they'll just look at one aspect of it. They'll see speed, or they'll see that the person had some alcohol in their system, and then they'll conclude that the crash was their fault. But rarely is that the case. With crashes, it's almost always, you know, percentages of fault that can be applied. It's a shared fault with individuals. So although they may be primarily at fault, it could be the other person contributed to the crash negligently in some way and have some sort of civil liability because of it.
Yeah.
How long does something like that take?
Like
once you come on board, like how long does the reconstruction itself kind of?
It depends on the complexity of the case. Some cases will take months. Some cases you take much longer than that. But I would say on average, probably about 3 or 4 months when you consider the work that Eric and I do.
How has technology changed your ability to reconstruct an accident?
It's had a significant impact on it. Back in the day when I first started doing this, we would have literally pen and paper, and we would create a scale diagram right there at my desk. Now we have laser scanners, and we have drones that we use photogrammetry, and we can create a very photorealistic 3D environment that will show the fact finders, the jurors, or whoever wants to find out about the case, what actually existed at the time of the crash.
Wow. What about in private investigation, Eric? How has that changed? How has technology changed what you're able to do? And let me preface this by saying, you know, it was a decade ago, if your neighbor had a surveillance system on their house, you thought they were like unbelievable, like, oh my God, they have a full surveillance system. Now everyone and their brother has this Ring doorbell. It's unbelievable how far we've come. How has technology affected what you're able to do?
I mean, technology, especially like you mentioned the Ring doorbell cameras, I mean, that's another means now of recording a crime or another piece of evidence, you know. But to piggyback off of what Tony said too, you know, using technology like the laser scanners and the drones, we're able to provide attorneys now with like reconstruction not only of accidents but also of like a homicide scene or a shooting or a fall down the stairs, you know, an assault. You know, and 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we didn't have that capability. You had witnesses, and if you didn't have a witness, you had nothing.
Yeah.
So cameras are great.
Cameras are great.
Oh, yeah.
For the most part. Sometimes. Often. Who should call you for private investigation? I know you focus on criminal. Do you get calls from defendants, or is it mostly lawyers? Who should call you?
If you're a defendant, if you're the family of a defendant, if you're the attorney, if you're involved with a criminal case in any capacity and you have the ability to make decisions, you should be the one that's calling me.
You know, a lot of, I think, criminal defense attorneys, we have a lot of them on the show, great guys. I think there's a group of them out there, though, that do want to kind of take the easy way out and just plead, deal it out. And maybe there's some, you know, some facts out there that are not really come out that could help them.
I agree, and you know, And if there's an attorney that's maybe overworked or needs that extra hand, we're there to help them. We can do most of the legwork for you.
Exactly.
And that saves you time and saves you money as well.
Yeah, huge thing you're doing, Eric Zelaya, Zelaya Associates. Anthony, who calls you for these accident reconstructions normally?
Well, more often than not, it's going to be Eric, but I have been privately retained by individuals, some even in non-fatal, non-serious crashes, but crashes where they wanted to show that they weren't at fault for the crash.
Yeah.
And also from other attorneys such as yourself.
Excellent job, guys. Great to see you. Great to meet you. Great job again, Tony. We'll see you again soon, I'm sure. And if you're a personal injury lawyer, don't hesitate to call these guys because it can be a real help to reconstruct the accident as well. And here's what we'll do. A final quick break. We will return to wrap it up with...
What did we learn?
When it comes to your investment strategy, there's only one place that we turn. It is Fortress Wealth Group. The QR code for Fortress is right here on the screen, but even better yet, joined by its leader, John Ledford. John, how are you, sir? Good to see you.
I'm great. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me today.
They kept tech is dead. Tech is dead. Is tech dead?
Tech is definitely not dead. Absolutely not. Tech is thriving and well.
It's the AI thing has just come out of nowhere, huh? What's going on?
Crazy. The last 6 months, the creator of ChatGPT, OpenAI, they're now the fastest growing company in the world. More subscribers than anyone before them, and launched from 0 to hundreds of millions of users almost overnight. And really, when you think about what goes into AI, and AI being commonplace, not just something we talk about, but something we use, the one thing AI thrives on are computer chips. And so you've got all these tech companies that are in the chip business that are now being propelled by this totally new type of industry and business out there.
And when you are strategizing about investment, having someone like you is so important to have the foresight as to what is going on in this world.
Well, there are a lot of different ways to invest. And I have this conversation with clients and comrades, quite often about what's the right way to invest. And the answer is there is no one right way to invest. And so we like to be a little bit agnostic in our strategy. So some passive, some active, some opportunistic. We think that's the best approach for most investors. And this would definitely fall into that opportunistic bucket. If you've got assets that are coming in, you have an asset sale, or you have money that's sitting on the sideline, what do you do with it? Well, you want to fill up your normal buckets first, but on the opportunistic side, I don't think there's any better place, to be investing for someone who has long time frame, a lot of risk tolerance than potentially in artificial intelligence.
Great job, John. Keep up the good work. The best strategy that you can have right now is to call Fortress Wealth Group, hit the QR code on the screen. You will not be disappointed. That's what we did. And as always, today we wrap it up with what did we learn? Michaela Nichols, what did you learn?
I learned that Dan Brigman said a great line. It was some windows suck. He was talking about it can suck inside the house. Anyway, don't get sucky windows, so you should get renewal by Andersen.
I think windows are super important as we prepare for hurricane season, no doubt about it. Also, I learned that private investigators are not just to find a cheating spouse or mate. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it's funny that's what you're concerned with.
And then I already knew this, but I hope you learned that I don't believe that debt consolidation, debt settlement is the way to deal with all of your credit card debt. I think it just prolongs the inevitable and costs you money every single month. And accident reconstruction has really come a long way technological wise, and a lot of things you can do with it. And I learned you did a great job.
Thank you.
You
did okay.
Thank you so much for joining us every weekend. See you again next week for more Behind the Law.
The proceeding was a paid advertisement. The views expressed were the sole responsibility of the advertiser.